Hello, my name is Abigail Cruz. My presentation is Roots in Oaxaca, Dreams in Los Angeles. Today we're going to be going over the introduction, background, life in Mexico, reasons for migration, journey to Los Angeles, life and adaptation in Los Angeles, challenges and barriers, cultural identity and connections, future goals, conclusion, and references. So an introduction. Today I wanted to share a case that is deeply personal to me. My presentation focuses on the journey of my mother, Elizabeth, who migrated from San Marcos, Tapazola, a small rural community in Oaxaca, Mexico, to Los Angeles, California. Her story is more than just a migration story. It's an example of resilience, sacrifice, and the complex realities of navigating identity in a new country. Although through this case study, I will explore her background, the diversity and inclusion challenges she faced, and the lessons her experience teaches us about immigrant resilience. And then this is just a little more about like what we'll be going over today. This case study is about Elizabeth, who grew up in San Marcos, Tapazola for as long as she can remember. That's all she knew. It's a rich place in culture, tradition, and community connection. It's a town where everyone knows everybody, and it's more like you can just talk to people on the street. So that's really like all she knew life was in a community. Although life there was meaningful, opportunities for advancement were extremely limited. In her early 20s, she made one of the hardest decisions a person can make, which was to leave behind her home, her language, her support system in hopes of creating a better future for herself. When she arrived to Los Angeles, she entered a world that felt completely unfamiliar to her. She faced language barriers as Spanish and Zapotec, which is a dialect they speak in Oaxaca. Which is all she knew. She also faced financial instability and the pressure of starting her life over from nothing. Yet, despite these obstacles, she did what many immigrant women do. She kept going. She built a life through determination, strength, and a deep commitment to her family's well being. And then the case study kind of shows more of like what she did. Diversity and inclusion challenges. From an academic perspective, she experienced multiple diversity and inclusion barriers, as many immigrants do when they come to a new country. She encountered significant language barriers, which limited her access to education, healthcare, and job opportunities. This barrier often led to systemic inequalities, such as lower wages and reduced mobility, as she was only limited to certain jobs because she was only able to speak Spanish. She faced stereotyping, such as assumptions that individuals from rural Mexican towns lack education or skills. As like when you come into a new country and it's presumed that you don't do anything, like stereotypes can also influence how society perceives and treats immigrant populations. She also experienced bias and prejudice. Her accent and appearance and cultural background made her vulnerable to discriminatory comments and unequal treatment. Cultural misunderstanding resulted in social exclusion, where she felt pressured to minimize her traditions to fit in. As in Oaxaca, they use like very bright and big dresses and like aprons with like many flowers on it. It's just like something that everyone typically wears, like it's normal clothing over there. But when you come over here, it's kind of you stand out, so it's kind of looked at like very weird, or like, who are you? So these challenges demonstrated how structural inequalities affect immigrants and highlight the need for stronger diversity and inclusion practices in our communities. And then I went over of like language barriers, stereotyping, bias and prejudice, employment discrimination, cultural misunderstanding, and exclusion from resources that she had faced. So the most inspirational part of her story, I feel, is her emotional and psychological resilience. She left everything familiar behind, not because she wanted to, but because she believed her sacrifices would open doors for her future children. And despite facing discrimination, financial hardship, and language barriers, she refused to give up. She learned English as soon as she could, she enrolled in a high school, and she would go at night after her job to learn English. So she worked multiple jobs and then navigated unfamiliar systems, still held on to the cultural values that shaped her identity. So she never forgot who she was, even though she was in a new city with people she didn't know and just being judged based on how she looked and that she couldn't speak English. What makes her story extraordinary is not that what she achieved, but how she achieved it through patience, persistence, and courage. Her journey represents the often unseen strength of immigrant women or just immigrants in general who fight quietly every day to build better lives. And what I learned from researching her story was that it taught me that migration is not just a single event, it's an ongoing process of identity reconstruction. I learned how bias, prejudice, and structural inequality can significantly shape the experience of many immigrants. Her story helped me understand that integration into a new society requires more than just learning a new language or trying to fit in. It requires navigating unfamiliar systems, social expectations, and personal challenges that they have to go through. Most importantly, I learned that behind every immigrant story is a blend of struggle, hope, and resilience to just make it through. Her journey taught me to view immigration not through statistics, but through the human experiences that defined it, as everyone has a different story and everyone goes through different experiences, and just have an open mind when it comes to that and not be so quick to judgment. Um, yeah. Steps to ensure others don't experience the same challenges. So to prevent others from facing the same obstacles that Elizabeth encountered, several steps can be taken. We can expand language and support programs to help immigrants communicate confidently and access essential resources that they may need. We can also have organizations and schools implement cultural competency training to reduce stereotyping and unconscious bias that sometimes we have and we aren't aware of. Workplaces should promote equitable hiring practices and offer pathways for advancement based on skills rather than just language alone, as language takes time to learn. And out of all the immigrants or like migrants, as most of my family have migrated from Mexico to Los Angeles or whatever city they plan on living on, they learn English with time, but they make an effort to learn, but they're very ready to work or just like make an effort to keep going. So we can do that. We can also increase access to community support systems, legal resources, and educational programs can significantly reduce vulnerability. And finally, just building a more inclusive community, one that value cultural diversity rather than just view it as a barrier. It can help ensure that future immigrants experience dignity and acceptance and opportunity rather than just shame and judgment. And then finally, so my conclusion. In conclusion, so Elizabeth's journey from San Marcos, Tapasola to Los Angeles is both a personal and universal story. It captures the emotional depth of migration, the challenges of cultural adjustments, and the strength required to build or rebuild a life from the ground up as they're starting like fresh when they come. Her story teaches us about courage, sacrifice, and the importance of creating communities where diversity is valued and supported. And understanding experiences like hers help us advocate for more equitable systems and deeper compassion toward immigrant populations. Elizabeth's resilience continues to inspire me, and I hope her story encourages all of us to look at migration not just as a movement across borders, but as a powerful journey of survival, growth, and identity. As they just left everything to in hopes of like a better future and just better opportunities that they didn't have over there in Mexico. So that's my PowerPoint. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you enjoy my PowerPoint. And then these are questions I still have, so that I had for Elizabeth, my mom. So I was just thinking like what strengths or coping strategies helped her overcome cultural and social obstacles. And these are my references. Thank you.